Testing for outside. Any sound outside? Nothing? We gotta love technology, right? Well, that's a good thing. It's working on YouTube, everybody. That's a good thing. Welcome, everybody watching on YouTube. Good to go? Okay, everybody, welcome to our annual meeting, town hall meeting. I'm jumping ahead of myself a couple weeks. Can everybody hear me all right? Am I talking loud enough? Is it coming through? Okay. So we have a couple updates on the agenda today. I'm not going to be talking too much. I have a bunch of other people here that are going to help me out. So let's just run through the agenda quick. We're going to start with an opening prayer. We have a worship update from Adam Lefevre Hughes. Hopefully he'll be inside here in a couple minutes. We get a call process and interim pastor update from Pastor Craig. Mission campaign update from Jen and Adrian. Preschool update from Sister Dottie. Constitution updates from Leslie McCarthy. A finance and small budget preview from Paul Schultz. And then I'll give you a quick reminder about the annual meeting and we will wrap it up. So, I see Adam sitting over here, so I'll pass the mic over to him, and he can give a worship update.
It's going to be... Oh, no.
The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you for calling us to many different callings in our life together. Some are wonderful and exciting and motivational. Some are still exciting in a different way. Some are a little more business related. Today is one of those days, and so we pray that you would bring some excitement here, excitement about our mission, excitement about our ministries, about the plans we have for your church, for your future for us. So we ask you to bless all those who present, all those who gather. We thank especially those who have worked behind the scenes to make this happen for us today. We know that's a challenge and a chore in many ways. So watch over us. May our time be blessed by you. May it inform us and may it prepare us for our meeting in a few weeks from now. These things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Good morning. Now I get to talk. This will be a little bit haphazard, but let's see what happens. So we have been worshiping here indoors now since June. We have our 8 o'clock and our 10:45 traditional services. Outdoors, we've been having our worship service every week at 9 a.m. Attendance at that has been really wonderful, over 50 most weeks. And then, of course, our New Day service has been rolling along as well. Some little updates that are coming down the pike. Eventually, the tents that are outside that have been housing our outdoor worship will have to come down. That's not due to anyone saying, yeah, you have to take them down. It's, well, other than God, who controls the weather. So at some point, we're just going to have to take them down. It's a reality. So when that happens, which I believe, keep me honest, sister, is the 21st? No, we're coming down... Thank you. November 7th will be the last outdoor worship service underneath the tent there. But, of course, never fear. Don't worry. November 14th is annual meeting Sunday, where we hope you'll all be back. And then November 21st, we'll restart our outdoor service underneath the portico, where we had it for a while. The time is changing. Again, sister, I'm looking to you because I'm blanking on... 9:15 to 9:45 for that outdoor service. With Sunday school that follows, yes? Oh, good. She's nodding. She says yes. I'm trying to remember if there are other updates that are important enough to take up more time, because I know that we have other important things to get to. So, anything? I'm looking over here to PR to see if there's anything. He's nodding yes, which I think means I'm good. So, whew. So I don't know who's next. Oh, PR. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Appreciate it. So a brief update on the call process. So I've made contact. I've spoken with both Bishop Dunlop and also with our direct Synod associate, and I'm just Pastor Martini. So I've had conversations with both of them. Bishop Dunlop about a week after my surgery, so I'm not quite sure what I said to him that day, but we haven't shut down yet, so I haven't said anything too terribly tragic. Did talk with Pastor Martini once I got back here. And so where we are at this point is the first thing we must do is form a call committee. We're in the process. We have some names that have been collected, some people who have volunteered, and so we'll sift those names. Council will appoint a call committee, put that together. Once that committee is in place, then we're able to start the process properly, which involves starting a self-study. And so we have the documents for that, but we are not allowed to begin that because the call committee has to have some input to that, whether they actually are the ones that draft and write that document, or as we've done in the past, we've had collected a group that would put that together in consultation and cooperation with the call committee. So we'll decide that. Once that document is in place, then we submit that back to the Synod. They review it. They then come out to us, and I believe at that point they meet with the call committee and maybe the council. I haven't read that far into the weeds to see exactly what that looks like, but they usually come back to the church because they will have suggestions about our profile and things that we maybe should or should not include. So they have a shared role in helping us craft how we present ourselves as a congregation to pastors, because they do a lot more of that than we do. And so we want to make sure that we present ourselves in a way that speaks to who we are. Once that's the case, then the Synod will start disseminating our papers to persons in our Synod that they may see as candidates. If I remember right, I think if a pastor is aware of us being vacant, I think that pastor can request to be considered as a candidate, but that is vetted through the bishop's office. Sometimes bishops work cooperatively, and they will sort of do their bishop in cluster thing, and will share papers, especially I think in senior pastor situations, beyond the Synod, and see whether there are persons outside of our area who might be interested in being considered for this call. So that is always the longest part of the process, waiting for interviews to happen, finding the right match. If you've been in a call committee before, sometimes you go through 3, 4, 5 different candidates. So we'll see how that goes. It just depends. I have no idea what the landscape is right now in terms of pastors. It's just different, as everything is. So the best news we have from the bishop, this is from the bishop's mouth, is that he is now open to us calling my successor, which has not been the case in the past. In the past, we were allowed to call an associate, and then when I retired, all of us retire. The Synod policy is that all rostered leaders submit their resignation to the bishop upon the resignation or retirement of a senior pastor, head of staff. So in our case, right now, that means when I offer my resignation, Sister Dottie needs to offer her resignation too. Does not mean that has to be accepted by the church, but it is not only our decision. The Synod has some hand in that. The pastor who is coming in has some input into that. So that's a dicey time for other rostered leaders on staff at that moment. So if we drag it out long enough, we can get to your retirement, and then we don't have to worry about it. So that's where we are. As I said, the really good news is we can call a senior pastor. That is new for this process. That has not been the case in the past. So we were looking at a much different process if this had happened in a different way. So that's what I have. Any brief questions before we move on? This is still pretty vague, but I just want to make sure I answer anything that is concrete specific. Yeah, sure. Right, we would call a senior pastor, and then we would have a transition for me to retire and that person to stay in my place. I'm almost 65, so I've been here longer than you need already, probably. So who knows? I really don't know. A pastor may come in and say, "I'm good, I got it. You can leave tomorrow." If I were in that situation, I'd want to have the previous person around for a little while to sort of find out where the demons are and where the dark, murky corners are. But that'll be your next pastor's call as to how much involvement they want from me at that point. So we'll see. Yeah. Ed? She will actually be our direct relator. So she will be the one who meets with our call committee. She will be the one who feeds information from the bishop to us about candidates. She would introduce candidates to us through call papers. I'm not sure how she and the bishop work in terms of sifting dossiers or applications that come. I suspect he does most of that, but he might vet some of that to some of his synod assistants. I don't know that part of it for sure. So she's a help to him, an assistant to him, and has charge of the direct conversation with us. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And Sister Dottie, or would there be an additional pastor? Or was there going to be just 2 clergy lines, or would there still be that third line?
Great question, yeah. So the question is, do we only have those 2? No, we can call as many people as we want and can afford. So someone suggested to me recently that what we might do is call a senior pastor, and then maybe we start immediately a process for an associate pastor. The day they start their call, I retire that day, or a month or 2 ahead of time, or whatever, So yes, at that point, but that will be driven by your new senior pastor, and how they envision their staff here in consultation with council and congregation, obviously. Yeah, great question. Thank you. Anyone else? We'll keep you posted. I'm committed to put a monthly update in the Herald each month. Repetitious. Some months there will not be as much going on. That might be the case for a couple of months, but I'll keep you updated as to what we have. So watch for that, and then certainly reach out to us or council members if you have questions. I'll keep council informed too, obviously. All right, thanks.
Switching the slides. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be with you today. I think Adrian and I both come with incredible gratitude for where we are in this mission campaign. Arguably, there have been a whole lot of things thrown at us that could have been viewed as obstacles, a pandemic certainly being one of them, launching a campaign at a time we haven't been sitting in these seats as often as we would like, and of course now a rostered leader transition. But we continue to move forward. So the next slide, Adam. So what we are going to do today is provide just a very high-level overview of where we are at this moment in the process. This is where my gratitude comes from. Looking at that $1.25 million base goal, you can see that we have total commitments in excess of $930,000. Cash in hand, if you will, those pledge payments and other outright cash gifts that have been sent to the church total just under $350,000. And thank you to the 105 households who have chosen to be part of this process to date. We know there are many others out there who are still in a prayerful discernment process as to when and how you will engage in the campaign, and we absolutely respect and honor that process that you are going through. And Adrian and I continue to be open to have conversations with any of you if it might be helpful. The next slide, please. So this is just a reminder as to what is part of the campaign. And you might remember back in, I think it was March of 2021, everyone received this snazzy trifold campaign brochure. If you're not using it as a bookmark in your Bible, you can download it on our website. But the reason I brought it as a prop today is because I find it helpful to explain where we are in the process. So this box that included all of the things related to interior and exterior church property needs. That is where our focus is right now. So the dollars that are being received, the pledges paid, we're working closely with council, which has been a tremendous partner to us in this process thus far. And dollars are being allocated to begin supporting all of this work. So you notice that certain furniture has been removed from the narthex area. Stay tuned, you'll start seeing progress there. You know that there have been other kind of non-sexy things that have been fixed in this congregation. HVAC systems, the boilers. We've made a down payment to fix the parking lot after so many years of talking about it. So that's our focus. When we achieve close to the $495,000 required to fund those capital needs, inside and outside renovation and property needs, that's when we're going to begin in a proportional way shifting those dollars toward both debt reduction, which was that second part of the campaign, and also the mission fund. So this is an area where we've been working very closely with our congregation council to tee up and prepare for that mission fund in particular. And I'm going to ask Adrian to continue our story from there.
Good morning, everybody. So, as you can see, and Jen just gave you a high-level focus on some of the areas we've already completed and are working on. And I want to see if anyone has any questions on any of these before we advance into kind of how the mission fund dovetails into the strategic plan that we've completed, and many of you have had the opportunity to review. So, any questions on the items that are completed or in process? Sir. No, what we're saying is that until we get to the 495 and can take care of some of the immediate cash needs, we won't begin allocating dollars to the mission fund or the debt reduction component. Other questions? All right, next slide, please. All right, so the mission fund. So we've talked about this several times, but I think this is a great opportunity for review, is that in this congregation, and we had a great message today from Pastor Ross about Bartimaeus, the blessings that we have and the faith that we all have inside of us, and some of us, I'll say follow it a little bit more earnestly than others. But the mission fund, the concept here is that we as a congregation have, I'll say, been a little scant on our outward mission work, both with regard to domestic and international missions. All of us have the call to make disciples, and the Mission Fund is going to provide us the opportunity to go out and, as congregants, as members of this family, come up with ideas on how we can go out and do mission work, bring the word, bring truth to those who either have not heard it or need to hear it again. So the Mission Fund concept is to build an ongoing fund that every year is now going to have dollars that are dedicated specifically to missions, getting out of the seats we're in right now and getting out and bringing word and truth to other people that are there. It's something that's needed. It's something that strategically, through the strategic plan, we said was a necessity and something that we want to do as a congregation. This fund is going to allow us to do it and do it well. So as you can see here, it's going to provide that financial support, and it's going to be in a situation where every year congregants are going to put together plans, almost like a business plan. Here's where we want to go. Here's what we want to do. This is my estimated cost. And then the Mission Fund, if you go to the next slide, please. The Mission Fund Advisory Board is going to take on these requests, vet these requests, and then present these requests to council for approval. If we get to the stretch goal of $2 million that's out there, I for one, certainly hope that we will have a fund, the better part of $1 million, that we can spin off, 4 or 5% annually and say, listen, January 1, we've got $40,000 for mission work. Somebody give me an idea. 5 people give me an idea. What do you want to do? What group do you want to do? Where can we go help people? Where can we bring out this mission, this truth to other people that are out there? That's going to come to the advisory committee. The advisory committee then is going to go to the council and say, here are the 5 best ideas we have to go out and do things. And then they're going to approve that, and now we're going to be able to fund these mission outreach opportunities that are there. If we do not come up with ways to spend this money, that money will go away. It will go to mission work here locally, outside of this church. So it is on everybody sitting inside these pews and everybody in the congregation to be saying, listen, we got to get out of these seats and we got to go out and make mission. So any questions on the mission fund and where we're heading? Thank you.
Well, our preschool reopened again this fall. We revamped the whole preschool program. We made it a little smaller. We have a smaller footprint. We have a total of 64 preschool children from ages late 2 through age 5. We've updated our hours. We have longer days, longer hours for our kids. Heather Kramer is our new preschool director. She's doing an awesome job. She was a teacher here years ago and came back as our director with a lot of experience directing in Visions in Manheim Township. Probably the thing I'm most excited about that we've added this year is something called Playground, which is an after-school program. It's optional for parents to sign up. And it's almost like an extra Sunday school day for our preschool kids. We start with a biblical story. We do some worship songs with them. We do some play and some crafts. That's from 12 to 1:30. They bring their lunch and they eat that as well. We are full. We started out, we have 12 kids a day. We have 36 kids in our playground area. So that is, like Adrian would say, that is one of our outreaches. While we're in the building, we are getting out to our preschool kids. We have our trunk or treat, which is next Sunday, and our preschool is invited to that, and we have as many preschool families coming to that as we do church families. And the nice thing about that is we're able to give them some things that what they're able to come back to St. Peter's for, whether it's worship services, whether it's special events. We are making a really hard effort to incorporate preschool, not seeing as it's something extra. It is a ministry of the church. So our goal is to incorporate this as a ministry, not as something it's St. Peter's does in addition to having a church life. Any questions on preschool?
Hi, everyone. Okay, so way back in 2019, in the before COVID era, you might remember at the annual meeting, we voted on some pretty extensive changes to the Constitution and bylaws. So after all of that happened, just procedurally, the copy of that Constitution then went to the Synod for approval. Well, that coincided with March 2020 and everything that happened with the world shutting down. So long story short, and due to no one's fault, we did not hear back from the Synod until late fall last year. So they were not able to approve our Constitution as it currently stood, and they had a long list of items that they needed us to update before they could bring it back to be reconsidered by them. So we are going to be voting on the Constitution again at the annual meeting in November. You can go to the next slide. So 3 things you need to know. So all of these changes are required by the Synod before they can approve it. Most of them are minor changes to the language, which is a little frustrating, but they're not things that we need to spend a lot of time on. For instance, there are a lot of changes from the congregation to this congregation. What you really need to know are there are 3 substantive changes that we got hung up on that I wanted to let you all be aware of. Next slide. Okay, this writing's a little small. First, the treasurer's term of office is now going to be, in this most recent version, a 1-year term with 2 consecutive terms permitted. This is similar to the president, the VP, and the secretary. Previously, the Constitution Committee thought it might be a good idea to change it to a 1-year term with 4 consecutive terms permitted, but the Synod indicated this conflicts with another constitutional provision that's required. So it's changed back to be similar to the President, VP, and Secretary. Second, you might remember there was a bylaw proposal from Adrian Young in 2019 that permitted to a different procedure for conflict resolution. The Synod had a little bit of a problem, said this conflicts with another required constitutional provision. I talked to Adrian about this. They provided their rationale and some ideas on how the language could be rewritten. So I provided that all to Adrian. He has the Synod Secretary's contact information, so if he wants to rework that, talk to them, and propose it again at a following annual meeting, he's free to do so, or anybody else is free to do so. He has the procedure for that. I just wanted to bring that up because it will not be in this version of the Constitution that we're going to be voting on in November. And the last one, the Executive Committee was previously deleted, but is added back in. The Synod thought it, they really wanted us to have it. They thought it's a good idea to have it. Even we had deleted it because we didn't really think that we needed it. We didn't use it that much, but they pointed out that it's probably a good idea to have, and that the Executive Committee not having one would conflict with the later section of the Constitution. So I had, just procedurally, I got all this information, I sifted all through it, I updated the Constitution, and then sent it over to the Council, so they would have a chance to review it. So actually, all of these changes are being proposed on their motion. They already had a chance to go through them all and discuss them all. Next slide. So, upcoming procedural steps. We will vote at the annual meeting on these new proposed changes to the Constitution and bylaws. If that is approved, we will then have to vote to ratify the constitutional portions without change at the 2022 annual meeting. Changes to the bylaws do not require this additional step, but as you know, since it's all one document, everything gets held up until the Constitution can be ratified. Then all the changes will be sent following the 2022 annual meeting to the Synod for their approval following ratification. Are there any questions? We will be providing copies of the Constitution to anybody who wants to take a look at it. Yes? Well, if you don't want to vote to approve them, then we will not have an approved Constitution. We'll have to start over again. So, I want everyone to be aware of all of the changes. I know that people have varying degrees of interest and how much they want to really dig into this. So just for the purpose of being completely transparent, we're going to have copies of the Constitution, and we will have the changes highlighted in there. So you can go through everything, look at everything you want. If you have any questions, please contact me. You can do it by email, you can do it by phone, you can grab me if you see me here. I would love to iron out all of the issues so we don't really have to get into a very long and extensive debate at the annual meeting, where it's really not the best environment to do that with a document that is so dense. Of course, there's going to be opportunities for debate because we're going to be voting on this, but if you really have an issue that you want to talk to me about, please do so before at the annual meeting. Also, I might not be at the annual meeting because I will probably be camping with the Girl Scouts. So hopefully it will just be a procedural step at that point, and if there are any issues before, obviously you can get in contact with me. Are there any other questions now? Okay, thank you.
And that's correct. I just found out when I walked in. I was just going to sit in the back of the room and observe this year, since this is my first year here as your parish administrator. Let me say it has been a joy. I can't believe it's already been 6 months that I've been here. Feels like I just walked through the door for the first time. And I've met some great people. Let me give a quick shout out to the property committee. We're talking about finances. I can tell you from my 30 years plus experience as a church administrator and a controller, they're saving you thousands and thousands of dollars a year for the work that they do here at this church. I mean, if we had to hire somebody, we'd have to hire somebody full-time to do all the handyman work and all of the unbelievable work. Changing these light bulbs takes about 3 hours. Rich and I and George were up there changing all these light bulbs, You have no idea. Of course, you've seen my administratively speaking articles about different things that have been going on, but it is tremendous. And unfortunately, I don't know why this happened, but it just happened just when school started. All of the air conditioners started to leak. 4 of them in 5 days leaked all over the preschool room. So I dug in there and cleaned out several of those with some of our sextons. And then Rich, not Rich, but Bud and George. Yeah, Bud and George came this week and came back and cleaned them all out professionally with air compressors and, vacuum up all the gook and stuff that's inside them, re-insulate them and all of that, and to kind of keep them going. So if I were to pay somebody to do that, that would have cost you a couple $1,000 just for this week's work alone. Because these HVIC guys get they don't get it, but the companies get about $150 an hour just to show up at the door. And then it just adds up from there. It's amazing. Anyway, I didn't want to digress too much, but I really want to give you a shout out for those guys there. And Norm and the counters, they are here sometimes full time. I mean, all day long. And again, as another one, if we had to pay somebody to do that, that would be quite expensive. So be sure to thank them all for the hard work that they do. And all right. So we are talking about the budget. Okay. So this is my first budget with you all. And then we're just going to give you kind of a brief overview here. And then, of course, at the annual meeting, you'll get more detail. What I ask you to do is if you have questions, specific questions, you can ask me. Now, I can't, and again, this is my first year, so I'm still learning all the committees and ministries and what's going on. So I was kind of backseat, if you will, to Sherry for this year to kind of understand the polity and the structure of the church. So if you do have specific questions, you can ask them, but then please write them down and send them to the church office. You can also email them to me at just churchadmin@stpeterslutheran.org. So please do that as well. And we will sift through those and have answers for you for sure, either even before or during the annual meeting itself. Okay, so this is a kind of an overview of where we are, the budget goal, the actual, and where we are. One of the things I have been quite impressed with of this congregation is even though we only have, 55 to 80 people or so, on a Sunday morning here, the offerings have been quite steady, quite steady. A lot of you have switched over to Tithely or Simply Giving, and it's just, it just blew me away, just to tell you the truth. It just blew me away, the support that you gave to your church, even though you couldn't sit in the pew. So this is, again, kind of an overview of where we are. Can we go to the next slide? Okay. So this is kind of a quick budget summary of weekly offerings. There'll be a 2.7% increase from the budget in 2021. There's some decreases in special services offerings, and there's various reasons for that. Just general things that are going on. You can see on the non-committee side, there's mission campaign, $235,500. Now let me quickly say, this is not going to affect the operating budget. That's one of the things we did. In fact, if you subtract that $235,000 from the total of our budget, it will be less than your budget now. So your budget in 2022 is going to be less than the budget in 2021 if we take out this mission campaign. So what we did was we put in $235,500 in revenue and the same in expenses. So there is no effect on your operating budget. Okay? Local benevolence, they took out the fall fundraising. Youth and family was probably the biggest increase that we saw because they're anticipating coming back and gearing back up, and they've got retreats and confirmation camp and other things. You can see the expenses listed there on the screen. The Strawberry Festival has been something that you've been doing for many, many years, but that was removed at least for next year. Cemetery, and another shout out to George Groff. George Groff is your cemetery caretaker, has been doing that for many, many, many years. Another one, if we have to hire somebody to do his work, that would be a tremendous expense to this church. George, he probably works good 30 hours a week on that cemetery. I am an official grave digger myself. I've been over there with George. We dug a cremation grave, and I got a chance to bury the urn after the thing. I've measured out for plots. I'm official. I can do that now. George has been kind of training me on the things that he's been doing. And I feel like I'm drinking from a fire hose. When you go there and you over there and you see what George does and the knowledge that's in his head about that cemetery, and I think, I cannot even comprehend all of this. This is just too much to take in. So again, thank you very much, George. Appreciate that. And so, yeah, there are still a lot of plots available there in the cemetery, and there's a whole field that we haven't even touched yet. So we do have a lot of places to go. There's also a cremation garden. If you haven't been there, I highly recommend it. You do. It's hidden. You know that it's hidden. It's on Valley Road, just after Turkey Hill. You look for a flagpole, and you turn right. Now, how's that for directions to get to a cemetery? There's no sign on the front that says, this is our cemetery, turn here, which is kind of a good thing because, unfortunately, you have all these kids that run around, nothing else to do but tip over monuments and everything and make George's life miserable. But thankfully, they haven't found you yet, I don't think. So we'll hope not. But anyway, you just basically come to Turkey Hill, you see a flagpole, you turn right and go back there. You'd be surprised how large that is. And you all know that was where your original sanctuary was built in 1880. And then you jumped a little bit further onto the road and built the one in 1909. But yeah, it is quite a cemetery. Very, very beautiful. Let's see. Okay, next slide. Okay, expenses. We talked about the fall fundraising removed and some other things that are going to be removed. And property. Okay, property. There's a lot going on with property. As you already know, you had to spend a lot of money just last year on the air conditioners on the roof here, and actually 4 of them on the roof. Here you had issues with the boilers, both of them, for the sanctuary and the one in the 1959 section. So kind of taking care of those. We took care of the cooling tower. So a lot of those things are kind of taken care of. So we didn't add a lot to the property budget for those kind of repairs because we do have funds in the mission campaign that we'll be using as well. So therefore we didn't add a bunch of dollars to the budget for replacements. But you never know. Emergencies, unfortunately, do come. And with an older building, you just like your house. My house is 1952, and I'm constantly fixing something. So, and this building is just about that old, particularly on the other section. And so there are a number of issues we have to take care of. Number one is, as you know, over there at the youth lounge, there's 3 air conditioners in the wall. Only one of them is working. So, and we're on borrowed time with that one. And they cost about $10,000 each to replace. So those are the kind of expenses that, unfortunately, will be coming soon. All right, next slide. Okay, that's the annual meeting. All right, so let me just quickly tell you. Okay, so yeah. So once again, I was quite impressed with the Finance Committee. We looked at the budget and actually worked on it in one night. We didn't go back to anybody and say, hey, your budget's too high, we got to cut this. People, when we went out and we asked for and solicited their inputs, we basically told them, it says, try to give us a good conservative budget. we don't know where COVID's going, if it's going to increase, whatever. And so they did. And again, we were able to approve the budget as a finance committee in one night. And so, again, thank you to those involved in the finance committee as well. So, any questions that I might be able to answer today? Yes, sir. Okay, I can't do it right now, but yeah, we can do that. Sure. Yeah, the vicarage, of course, is your house here on Delp Road, number 40 on Delp Road. It is an older home. In fact, this year we inspected the house, and it was actually in very good condition. You know, we were quite impressed. No signs of roof leaks or anything like that, but when we went outside, looked at the roof, as I mentioned in my article, if you may have saw it, the shingles were curled up. That's never a good sign. That's a sign that roof's got to be replaced, or you're going to have serious roof needs. So we replaced the roof there and also on the garage itself. Other than that, we had a radon fan that didn't work because a bird had decided to build a nest inside it. And if you know anything about radon fans, there's a little fan that's spinning in there. So that poor lady didn't make it. And so so we have replaced the radon fan, and so that problem has been solved. So I have no idea. No, that's a roster leader. Yeah. Good question. Yes, ma'am. We can't hear those people. All right. Here comes the microphone.
Good morning. It was not my intent to have
it's not turned on.
Turned on? Can you hear me? Good. It was my intent not to have to take up your time.
All right.
Not on the
Here we go. Try this one.
Try that one. Good. Good morning. Can you hear me? Thank
Test
you.
1, 2,
It was
1.
not my intention to take up your time in having to repeat this, but my question is, it would be interesting to know how much money we are pouring into this vicarage house compared to what we are receiving, and how long must we retain that home before we get another vicar?
Good question.
Thank you.
Again, once again, if you have questions, please write them down as well.
I'm not making you nervous, Paul. I don't have a question for Paul, but I just want to share that I have had the fortune to work closely with Paul over these last several months, both through engagement on the Finance Committee and the work with the campaign. And I just want to attest to what a blessing Paul is to this congregation. He brings decades of his experience as a controller. He's been within church settings, and I have been wildly impressed with what he has been doing to help us be even better and more important stewards of everything that this congregation is blessed with. And it is messy work behind the scenes. It can be really messy. So I know some people might not have even met Paul before today, but I just wanted to give that shout out to you because, Paul, the work you have done in a mere 6 months has been quite extraordinary. And I know there's a whole lot more to come, but I just wanted folks here to have that observation. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Okay, as you think of your questions, please write them down, or you can email them to me at churchadmin@stpeterslutheran.org. Okay? Thank you.
That's okay. Okay, so we're going to wrap up. Can you guys hear me? Is this one on now? Okay. We're going to wrap up here just with a reminder for the annual meeting in 3 weeks, I guess, 3 weeks from today. That morning there will be one unified worship service here at 9 o'clock. And following that, we'll all migrate over to the Family Life Center, where we will have plenty of seating set up inside. Hopefully we will have a better outdoor experience over there, barring the weather is still acceptable then. And that will start at 10:30. So as I said, outdoor seating to be made available. I think we're going to have a stream over there to watch from home, maybe? Okay, we'll work on that. We'll be voting on the 2022 budget, which you just got some of a summary of. There's a preschool budget as well, the Constitution updates that Leslie shared, and also our new class of council members that will be starting next year. And one thing to note with the voting, members must vote in person, as we won't be collecting votes virtually this year as we did last year. That was a special exception made just for our situation at the time. Any questions on the annual meeting? If you have any questions, anything leading up to that, feel free to ask anybody on council, anybody in the church office, and we will try to get answers for those. There will be documents, the budget, the Constitution, all of that will be made available with a link online. I know we'll have some physical copies here as well to pick up over the next couple Sundays, so look for that. I believe later this week we're going to try to get those out nice and early for you to look at. And so we will just end with the Lord's Prayer. Okay, thank you all for attending. Thank you to everybody that helped present as well. See you next Sunday.